Wow.
Can you imagine? The fact that it's still there is because the subcontractor who brought the rock on had the paperwork and said, excuse me, this is what the rock is. But can you imagine? And that, dear friends, is bureaucracy. I didn't mention the King's Troop Royal Artillery, who you might have seen, yes, you've certainly heard from Hyde Park, but they used to have their stables just over in that corner there, and it was they who used to retrieve the shells that were fired out during the... This is no good, is it? During the days of horses and their gun numbers and so on. Back downhill now towards the sea wall, you see again the difference in height between the two, and that replicates itself across the whole island. You see these levees where the sea walls have been built. Another heap of trees here. This was West Newlands farm. There was a farmhouse there, but not anymore. Oh, here comes there. Yeah, but not anymore. But the whole island, as you can see, is as flat as a board. We all have to take a pair of binoculars with us just to see who's doing what to whom, and it is quite handy seeing what's going on. The old public right-of-way goes up there. This, strictly speaking, isn't the public right-of-way, but that was the old road from Fisherman's Head, if you'd have walked up around the skirts, as they call it. Sometimes people ask me, well, where is RAF White City? White City, what a good name for 9 houses. At White City, there's the remnants of it just there. It was where the, so we got to war period, but they had, and up until the 1980s, I suppose, aircraft trials used to take place. And for those of you who've got any sort of knowledge of military history, the TSR-2, that beautiful fighter bomber that was scrapped by Wilson's government, that ended up here. And at the end of the Second World War, if you think, all of those great Second World War heroes, the Spitfire, the Hurricane, the Lancaster and so on, were made redundant just like that because of the jet engine. And so many of those planes ended up over there. And if you was a child growing up in the 50s, you had the best toys to play with ever, because you just sit in the cockpit and shoot down the Germans. It was brilliant, you know. And the Lancasters, you could sort of turn the old turret around and sort of be tail end Charlie all over again. One of the Lancasters, so one of the locals was telling me, was one of those that was used in the Dam Busters raid. It had the insignia on the side. Incredible. But because they after the war all were obsolete, weren't they? As soon as the jet engine and the Meteor and so on came along, it just made it useless. I was talking to a chap who used to work for Freddie Laker, and he said in the 1960s he was directed to his crates, wooden crates, and inside those wooden crates were Merlin engines, and his instructions were just to smash them up for scrap. Merlin engines worth a fortune. Yeah. Right, so we now got the next sea wall here, which was about 1500. This one was built. And for those of you who've been with me before, you'll know that I get rather excited at this point because we're actually going to go up the only hill on Foulness. So just hang on while I just have my little exciting moment. Yeah, we are going to the dizzy heights of 6 feet above sea level, according to the trip. So, if you want to suck a boiled sweet, well, do so now. This is where we have our winter ski resort here. You can see where the cable car runs along those lines there to the ski resort. So there's the ski lift there, you see. And you see this hill? Incredible, isn't it? Hey? Look at this. This is the jungle slope. We go to the other side. It really is steep. Here you go, 6 foot. And this is Hill House, where Gerald, our tractor driver, used to live as a kid. Oh, down the other side. Yeah, that is where the harness maker used to live. He make the saddles and the bridles and so on for the work horses. This used to be the village butcher shop here. Old chap, the butcher used to live here, and he used to keep his pigs up the back. Then we come to the pub, which was the King's Head. And the single story part of this with the Pantar roof, which is coming across here, is the oldest house on Foulness, about 1590 or thereabouts. So this is the oldest house still standing on Foulness, this little bit here. There are older sites of houses, but this is the older house still standing. Signal Cottage, built about 1800, grade 2 listed. Oh, and our holiday cottages as well. Look at these. Nice little showers. Yeah. The people who live there used to live in these two houses here, but they've been condemned and they've been knocked down, so they've rehoused them. And those rather delightful holiday showers. Yeah, all these houses are built in the 1920s. Then we've got the shop here, just behind the trees there was the Saw shop. Saw Bird used to live there in the house, and then we come round the corner here, which was the old blacksmith shop, which just stood here. This is Blacksmith's Row, where the Threadgolds, if you know the Threadgolds, who live in Wakeland, this is where they used to have their blacksmith shop. So Courts End then has its own little community who had the Meads who lived at the old house, and you were the harness makers, so you get your belts and your bags, and all your horse gear out there. You had the butcher shop, pub, the village shop, and the blacksmith, and that really is about as much as you needed to live in the 19th, early 20th century. Really, everybody had a big garden, so you grow your own vegetables. The haberdashers and so on, who sell you sort of buttons and needles and threads and so on, would come across from Burnham every so often and sell what you needed to make your own clothes. And so really everything was kind of self-sufficient. But now we get Asda and Morrison's and Ocado, everybody, Tesco's. Hare just went through there, yeah. If you see a rabbit, it's a hare. We've got very, very few rabbits on Foulness. Very few. I did see one the other day, which was a bit of an event. Across where that wind farm is the Dingy Peninsula.
Loads of hares. Loads.
Yes, there's a fox pheasant right over there. But, there's usually loads of hares running around on there. You see them in? Oh yeah, into the second block of this field, yeah. I don't know if you. Oh, there's a skylight just got up here. So. I don't know if you take the South End deck, or it's so expensive it's not worth buying anymore. But Sir Duddridge, as the Echo calls him, was proposing yet again for a wind farm on Foulness. I don't know if you read that. Fat chance. Duddridge, he talk about backing the wrong horse every time, eh? I'm right behind you, Boris is scuttling down the road here. Brilliant. I don't know how he gets it so long every time he does it. Right, so yeah, we're coming now towards the River Crouch, which is where that seawall is. That battery there is for testing tank barrels. It hasn't been used for several years, but that's what they do there. We try to farm with wildlife in mind, and of course those trees there are a lovely habitat for pigeons, they're sort of right-throat flycatchers and so on and so forth. This area here will be designated for winter wildlife mix, for birds and so on. These two plots here and this one here, they'll be sown with a bird seed mix. Yeah, there's 4 hares just over there. Yeah. fascinating to watch here. So you can see why they appear so much in their folklore. Another one coming towards us here now. Just here. We've got a pair of oyster catchers there thinking about resting. Oh, they just got up. But no, we have a good population of hares. I mean, we don't have as many foxes as perhaps elsewhere because we tend to look after the foxes. But the birds of prey will hunt the leverets quite remorselessly. They have a bit of a problem, which we can't do anything about. Here is the 1500 seawall, which are actually going to go up and over. So you can see with this one, yeah, you can say, yeah, this is a seawall, definitely. So we're now back on land, as it were. Hello. That tree there is a very, very old pear tree. It must be 250 years old. It's mentioned in a history book written in the 1850s and is referred to as the ancient pear tree even then. Crouch Corner. There's a lovely story about a chap, Didrik Riley, who was a sea waller back in the late 19th, early 20th century. There's a story told to me by his great-grandson, actually, and he said that his relation did have an argument with the vicar, you see the church over there, and he refused to go to church at Wakeling. Instead, he took the family by boat across the Burnham. Can you imagine it, rowing across there for Sunday worship? Oh, there's a marsh harrier, male marsh harrier just got up.
Yeah.
Lovely sign. Looking for baby rattles and baby hares or something. But yeah, that is the male of the species. You can see the male is sort of a bit more interestingly marked. It's sort of greys and whites and black. The female is brown and bigger. Look out, you might find the female, because they're usually fairly close together. And if you're very lucky, you might see them doing a bit of a courtship display. That they'll lock claws and sort of spiral down or exchange nesting material. When they're actually young, they will exchange food in midair. One will drop it to the other one, pick it up. But I can't see the female. Yeah, people ask what the church tower is there quite often, and this is the Environmental Test Centre, and that tower is a dropping tower. That's where they can do controlled drops of anything, from a 40 watt light bulb to a bomb. Just drop it to see what it will take before it breaks. And what's reassuring now is that Kinetic is trying to go carbon neutral, because you can see on top of all those lampposts there are solar panels, which at night time this place is all lit up. So it's reassuring to know that when we go to war we are carbon neutral. Oh yes, Manhattan just coming into view now, just right across there. They're having trouble parking this way. Gotta keep that app on your phone, right? I was talking about the sea walls and we looked at some of the major big sea walls that were built during the late Middle Ages. But some of the sea walls were internal sea walls, and we're now on an internal sea wall. It's at this point that I try to explain that the sea, whether it's here or Canvey or Wallasey or the Dengie, the sea wall was like a ship's hull. It would keep the water out. But as you know, that a ship's hull also has bulkheads, and so if the hull gets pierced, only a section of the hull will be inundated with water, and hopefully the rest of the boat will stay afloat. So similarly here, you have the external seawall which keeps, hopefully, the sea out. But you've also got internal seawalls which act like bulkheads. So each individual landowner had to maintain both his external seawall and his internal seawall as well. So that if the external seawall broke, it wouldn't then flood his neighbour's land. And it's called the Law of the Marsh. It was an early medieval ruling, and it was maintained quite strictly as well. So we're travelling on an internal seawall. You will know that we've had a very wet spring. February was dry, March was sopping wet, and we haven't been able to get onto the land. This should have been planted with oats, but it's too late. It hadn't dried out in time. This field here should have been sprayed off because you've got all those beans from the previous crop in there. And we're going to get on and spray them. Without the moment the beans are, it's giving the wheat a bit of extra nitrogen. But there we go. Yeah. Cool. Can you smell that sheep's parsley? That's what that is. That Queen Anne's List. The flower rangers call it. It's pepper. We're coming into Nayswick. I've mentioned other wicks, and a wick is a farm. It's a dairy farm. And if you have an egg sandwich, that's where the eggs come from our girls who are working very hard for us. Thank you, ladies. And this is Nayswick here. We saw that male marsh harrier. This is where they nest here. They've been nesting here for about 5 years, successfully bringing up birds, which is quite exciting really. So this area we manage for marsh harriers. It looks rough, but it's got wildflowers and it's also got birds in it. Not looking at its birds, it would be good. This field we did manage to drill it. It did dry up. That was drilled last week. But these two here, too wet. Just can't get on them. It might have dried out now, but it's too late to put anything in really. So we'll tackle the weeds and sort things out for next year. Another hair just sitting through there. Right, well that's it. It's nice when the sun's shining, isn't it? It makes everything feel a bit better. Nobody get bitten yet by mosquitoes? Yeah, that has got out here now the tides. That's good. Right, there you are. You've been told about this new booking system. I'm sure some of you have already done that, but if you haven't, if you want to put yourself on our list who will book in every week or every month,